People are very scared. They're scared of being evicted. They're scared of losing unemployment. And the Senate has done nothing. May 15th, the House passed the HEROES Act. And they, right now, all of this runs out.
Former Senator Al Franken is right. Americans are scared. Millions have been left worried about how they're going to pay for groceries, their bills, and their rent as Congress lets the $600 a week enhanced unemployment benefit lapse. Congressional leaders have thus far been unable to come to a bipartisan deal. And now, as we see a rise in new coronavirus cases and the potential for a second lockdown, it's more important than ever to keep both Americans and our economy afloat. My next guest paints a grim picture of what could happen if Congress fails to act. She writes, once the downward spiral starts, more job losses lead to less consumer spending, lead to more business closures, lead to more job losses. It can lead to an even deeper downturn that permanently damages the economy for years to come. Economists say the United States is not in that spiral yet, but the nation is at an inflection point. With me now is the great Washington Post economics correspondent, Heather Long. Heather, there are a couple of different issues you're talking about here, and I want to start with the first one about inequality. The biggest asset most people have is their home. But even if you don't own a home, probably the greatest cost you have is housing. And what we are seeing in this recession is exactly what we saw in the last recession. If you went into it at a slow jog, you're going to come out of it running. And if you went out into it stumbling a little bit, you're going to come out flat.
I think you're right. I remember back to the Great Recession in 2008-09, we were all driving around looking at all of the empty homes as people were being kicked out and foreclosed on. What I'm really worried about this summer and as we head into the fall is an eviction crisis. This pandemic is hitting renters much harder, and the federal moratorium on evictions has now expired. Congress has let that lapse. What that means is landlords can now send a letter to their renters and say, look, if you're not paying the rent, I can start kicking you out at the end of August. There are eviction courts that are open around the country that are having these hearings right now as we speak. And the reality is we could easily see 12 million evictions by October.
I want to point out yet something else in this article that you wrote. And it's not just that recessions are bad for people. They're actually not bad for some people. They're really good for about the 7% of the economy that is wealthy. You say homes sold nationwide in April, May, and June at an annualized rate of 15 million, according to seasonally adjusted data released last week by the Commerce Department and National Association of Realtors. Meanwhile, 12.6 million renters say they were unable to pay rent last month, according to the latest Household Pulse survey from the U.S. Census. If you have money and if you have credit, you can get a 30-year fixed mortgage for 3% or less today. This is a great time to be wealthy. This is a great time to be rich at the very same time that that millions of Americans, as you point out, are losing their wealth.
Yeah, it's an unprecedented time for housing inequality in this country, and a reminder that this pandemic is hitting people so differently that basically what's happening is people who still have a job, people who came into this situation with some savings, this is like a bargain hunting housing situation for them. You know, they're able to take advantage of these historic lows in the mortgage rate. The 30-year mortgage fell below 3% for the first time ever in July. And so basically the wealthier are going out and they're buying bigger homes right now, you know, homes with yards, homes with an extra office where they can work from home. And at the flip side, we have 12 million Americans who weren't able to pay their rent in June. And now we have that eviction moratorium that has expired. And on top of that, this weekend, as you've reported, that $600 extra unemployment benefit that the federal government has been giving out, that is now gone as well. So we have families that are going from having about $900 a week in unemployment to dropping to $300 or less a week in unemployment. Basic math, you can't pay your rent. Most people can't in this country if they're only getting $300 or less a week.
Heather, thank you for your remarkable reporting on this. I do encourage our viewers to follow Heather Long and read her reporting. It's very detailed, and it tells you a lot about what's going on in the economy. Heather Long is a Washington Post economics reporter. Hey there.
there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.